Bitcoin has barely moved between the $32,000 and the $34,000 mark for the last few days, and as we descend into an area of very low volatility, that does mean that something very big is on the horizon. And today we're going to look at the latest news from Bitcoin. Has Apple just bought $2.4 billion worth of Bitcoin? And what does Robert Kiyosaki have to say about Bitcoin for the future? Hello guys, and welcome to the House of Crypto. I make videos about Bitcoin, Ethereum, as well as other cryptocurrencies. If you're new to the channel and you want to know more about cryptocurrencies, then consider subscribing to this video. Without further ado then, let's jump into the first piece of Bitcoin news for today. So we'll jump over to the Apple news in a minute, but this story from a couple of days ago from Robert Kiyosaki, or also known as the guy who wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad, has been backing Bitcoin as he says the biggest crash in the world is coming. And the reason he thinks that that is about to happen is he thinks that all the kind of money that has been lent out by the governments, etc., to the big banks, to the malls, etc., is sort of running out. People aren't being able to pay their mortgages, etc. Very similar to something that happened in 2008, and they've been printing more and more cash to kind of cover up the gaps, but the gaps are starting to show. He thinks it's only a matter of time before some of these banks aren't going to be able to cope and potentially could cause sort of a domino effect and leave the government in a position where they actually can't bail out the banks like they perhaps did back in 2008. He's been very vocal on Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies as well as gold and silver. Since they share similar fundamentals, he's been coming up for quite a while now, over the last sort of year or so, as he's learned more and more about cryptocurrencies. So he thinks now that Bitcoin may well hold the $30,000 level. He was previously waiting for the $24,000 level to appear, but potentially may not get this opportunity again. We will take a look at the charts slightly later on as well to see how that's unfolding and what might indicate one move one way or the other. A next huge piece of news we want to look at today over on Yahoo Finance is addresses holding over 100,000 Bitcoin hits a 27-month high. So, although the price has been low and we have seen a bit of a sell-off come in the last sort of couple of months or so, actually, the whales are accumulating. And what I want to jump over to now before we have a look at the rest of this is this picture here, which shows the Wall Street cheat sheet. And I have brought this up at a number of other occasions on my channel. And the reason I want to draw attention to it is we have recently seen a lot of fear in the market. We have seen a period where it's looking quite quiet, quite boring, not much going on. But the reason for this is when we get all this kind of huge hype and stuff, when the prices are high, it's actually when the market is about to tank and go low. But actually when we start seeing more in the way of fear, more in the way of not very much interest playing into the market, as well as large players accumulating, etc., this could mean that we are potentially in an area sort of down at this sort of level. And what that does mean for us is that actually where some people think we are kind of up a bit higher in the complacency area, etc., actually, if we are down in this area and we are seeing the big players accumulating, this does mean that actually we do have then coming back into the cycle, as you can see here, disbelief, which always comes into disbelief here, and then back to hope, and then all the way up, back for another ride on this sort of emotional roller coaster, if you will. Okay, so it's saying that a large number of whales are currently holding over 100,000 Bitcoin. Okay, so if they've been slowly acquiring more and more Bitcoin, etc., and then actually you can see that they're not necessarily showing the fear, and that the market fear has been driven by sort of news, etc., that's coming out. It's people buying and selling, the retailers who are basically controlling the market. Obviously the rumors, etc., come from the whales, and they're designed to sort of implement, and they're designed to kind of get behaviors to come out of you in that way. Every time I see this word at the start of a sentence now, when we're talking about cryptocurrency, we should be looking out for some sort of manipulation in the markets. Leaked reports, they seem to happen pretty much on a weekly basis now. Leaked JP Morgan report reveals that extreme Bitcoin price volatility warning as Ethereum crash adds to $100 billion crypto rout. Okay, so Bitcoin has swung wildly. Okay, the Bitcoin price is down around 50% from April peak that saw it more than double in the first 3 months of the year. If we think about what these big institutions, etc., are trying to achieve here, if we think back to a couple of months ago, many of the big banks, etc., were saying that we were going to see Ethereum go up to $20,000. We were going to see Bitcoin hit $200,000. All they really want to see is the market being manipulated so that they can sell so they can sell at the top and have people to sell to, and then they can buy at the bottom and have people to sell it to them. Okay, so they need the liquidity in the market. That ultimately is why retailers are allowed to trade within financial markets, etc., because they bring liquidity to the markets. Okay, obviously crypto is slightly different, but that's ultimately what is going on. So be always very aware of the kind of both the positive news and the negative news that we see appearing on the markets. And last but not least, guys, obviously, we had a very exciting and tumultuous year with Elon Musk stating, whether he was buying Bitcoin, then he went on to say he was going to sell it, and then he went on to say that he wasn't going to accept it, etc. And every time we saw these huge jumps around in the price. Now, Apple is another company with a sort of a similar market cap to Tesla, with a similar amount of impact on the market. And there's rumors floating around that Apple have in fact bought $2.5 billion in Bitcoin. And this rumor has been going around for a while, but actually is potentially coming out as more and more big companies like Galaxy Trading, etc., get on board with it. And if this is something that turns out to be true, then we could see a large pump in the market, once people jump on board. But, as it tends to be, buy on rumors, sell on news. So be potentially prepared that if we do see news come out, we could see a boom and then potentially another bust, as markets tend to settle back to where they were before. Now, before I jump into the Bitcoin chart, I want to show you the DXY, which is the dollar index. And obviously, coming from what we've just heard from Robert Kiyosaki, when we were seeing back in the earlier stages of this year, we saw Bitcoin, Ethereum, etc. booming. That was when the dollar was falling, okay? And then we tend to see the opposite happening. As the dollar rises in price, we do tend to see the other markets coming down, etc., which is obviously, they're based US dollar versus Bitcoin. What we're going to see a reversal in the price. But what we're seeing that is very, very interesting, this is on a daily chart. We've seen this rising wedge here, which has been started back since the 17th of June. And what we have had here is we did break out and we did come back and we've retested. And literally, this is on the one-day chart. We've seemed to have been rejected here. If we are to be rejected at this level, then we will potentially see another fall back down towards this level. And if we were to come out and look further at this big descending triangle pattern, if we were to take a fall and drop at the bottom of that, that would bring the DXY all the way down to levels that it hasn't seen for a very good amount of time. Okay, so be prepared that potentially we're going to have somewhat of a perfect storm happening for cryptocurrency, maybe not straight away, but in the coming months. Now, as we've seen with Bitcoin, Ethereum, cryptocurrency, for a very, very long time, we have been seeing this pattern since back on the sort of 19th of May when we had that big, consolidation phase begin. And what is happening right now as we speak is we are approaching the end of this pattern, which is nearly up to 2 months old. So actually what is going to happen is going to be very big. And ultimately, until we see a breakout one way or the other, and obviously as well to see it confirm as a breakout, because we got faked out up here and faked out down here, there's no direct, obvious way to see what exactly is going to happen with Bitcoin. So personally, I am going to stand on the sidelines until this moves. Basically, the longer a pattern has to play out like this, the tighter it gets squeezed, the more volatile it's going to potentially be when it breaks. Okay, so don't be surprised that if this is going to take a break to the downside, that we could see a fairly aggressive drop and potentially, obviously, in the other direction as well. Now, just be aware as well, we do obviously have this news, and in the news, we could potentially see news drop towards sort of the end of this pattern, whether that be positive news or negative news, and we have seen that previously on the way up for Bitcoin. We saw Elon Musk saying that he was going to buy Bitcoin at around the time it was due to break out of a pattern. And obviously on the other side, as we came back down the other way, he obviously made another comment when we were due to break out of a pattern. But if we were to take a rough, target price, if it was to recover, as you can see at the moment, we are taking a bit of a dip on today, but we're still holding steady above this orange line, then we would see potentially to come back up and a break back towards the $46,000 level. And on the other side of things, if we are to take a drop, which obviously we are in a bear trend, and we are looking like potentially a target down towards the $21,000 level. And as we think back to what Robert Kiyosaki said, he was saying that something around the $24,000 level would be what he would potentially be interested in. You know, obviously, if we look back to when we were coming up until this sort of area, at around the sort of $28,000 level, which could potentially provide us with some good support, there actually isn't a huge amount below that because we did come up very fast. There's a few levels to pay attention to on the way down, but as I mentioned, you know, this is the daily chart. We could potentially see a breakout in the next sort of 24 to 48 hours playing out. So until that happens, I'm going to be sitting on the sideline and looking to potentially make a trade, depending on which way you head. If it is to head lower, then I am going to be looking to fill up my bag and buy more Bitcoin as well as other altcoins, etc. Because obviously the rest of the cryptocurrency market reacts fairly strongly when we see Bitcoin take a move. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed today's content, something a bit different from usual. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button to be kept up to date with all of the latest Bitcoin, Ethereum and cryptocurrency news. And as well, please smash up that like button. It really helps me to get this content out to more people and helps me more than you know. So thanks very much for that. Guys, thanks very much for watching, and I will see you again tomorrow with another video. Bye-bye.